President Donald Trump replaced online privacy protections in 2017, giving internet service providers the power to collect and sell your personal data without your permission. But that was just the beginning. As his presidency continued, he would go on to dismantle even more crucial oversight, leaving Americans vulnerable to government surveillance and data exploitation. But the story doesn't end there.
Stay ahead in a changing world.
Let's dive into Donald Trump's 2017 presidency and the controversy surrounding online privacy. President Donald Trump on Monday signed into law a controversial measure repealing online privacy protections established by the Federal Communications Commission under the Obama administration.
The bill I'm about to sign is titled the Judicial Redress Act Bill. And what it does, in simplest terms, is make sure that everybody's data is protected in the strongest possible way with our privacy laws. Not only American citizens, but also foreign citizens. We take our privacy seriously.
The rules, which will have taken effect in December, required internet service providers, including Comcast, Verizon, and at&t, to obtain permission from customers before sharing personal data like their web browsing history. The rules were aimed at preventing internet providers from selling that data without permission. Critics of the rules argued they were an example of government overreach and were unfair because tech companies like Google and Facebook are not required to get such permissions before tracking customers' habits. By signing the repeal into law, President Donald Trump essentially allowed ISPs to collect and sell customer data without explicit consent. This move was seen as a major setback for consumer privacy advocates who argued that customers should have control over their personal data and how it's used.
News is coming to the World Wide Web. President Donald Trump continues to make changes in his first 100 days. Now he is tossing out internet privacy protections passed by President Obama. Monday, Trump signed a resolution repealing the rules that required internet service providers to have your permission before collecting or sharing your data, such as browsing history, app usage, and geolocation. Democrats and privacy advocates claim personal information will now go to the highest bidder.
It's worth noting that this decision was met with significant criticism from privacy advocates and Democrats, who argued that it would allow ISPs to profit from customer data without their knowledge or consent. On the other hand, Republicans and some industry groups argued that the rules were unnecessary and would have stifled innovation and competition in the tech industry. Fast forward to 2025. And the U.S. privacy nightmare begins again. What's changed after 30 days of President Trump's new administration? 30 days may not sound like a long time, but it certainly was enough for the new Trump administration to shake things up, with Americans' data privacy being amongst the impacted. Perhaps the biggest decision of all so far came a couple of days after the president's inauguration of January 20th, 2025. As first reported by the New York Times, the White House quickly presented 3 Democratic selected members of the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board, the PCLOB, with a choice to resign or be fired. That sounds just like Trump. Walk up all up in the White House, just point at people with his long overcoat, about, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired.
You're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
Let's go.
Hello, Mr. Trump. It's an honor to meet you. I was wondering what you would say to President Obama.
You're fired.
While most Americans have never heard of the board, which oversees national security agencies such as the CIA, the NSA, and the FBI, we should all be concerned about the undermining of an oversight agency designed by Congress to ensure that government surveillance not infringe our privacy and civil liberties. One of the members who got fired, Travis LeBlanc, you're fired, wrote on The Guardian. The board I served on was created to make sure that independent bipartisan subject matter experts, such as myself, that my fellow board members could keep a close watch on the use of new national security powers that presidents were given to surveil Americans after 9/11. Our job was to look for abuse that threatened Americans' privacy and freedom. So, you might be thinking, what's the big deal about the PCLOB, Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board? Well, think of them like this. The big deal about them, it's like you should think about them like the Edward Snowden Department. Yeah, I said it. Edward Snowden. Imagine having Edward Snowden himself making sure the government doesn't violate our rights to privacy. Imagine Snowden, but with a government badge and a bit more paperwork. But unfortunately, Trump decided to dismantle this crucial oversight just a few days into his presidency in 2025. So next time you think about privacy, remember, Trump just kicked out the department that was supposed to be our watchdog. It's like firing the night watchman and then wondering why your house just got robbed. Let's fast forward to Donald Trump 2.0, or should I say Donald Trump 2025, which is a big win for tech, but it may not be for encryption or privacy. Now, while it's difficult to make these predictions at this stage, what a new Trump administration could mean for American data privacy, there's also the risk that encryption, the guardian of data security and privacy, might still be a target under Trump 2.0. During his first mandate, the Trump administration was on the front in a debate against end-to-end encryption, and this could also be a theme for his next term. End-to-end encryption refers to the system for scrambling data into an unreadable form to prevent third-party access between sender and receiver, end to end. In February 2020, at the time, U.S. Attorney General William Barr raised concerns about the deployment of warrant-proof encryption, warning that dangerous criminals can cloak their activities behind an impenetrable digital shield. This general went on to say, Barr has been concerned about this for years, but he has become more vocal recently as encryption goes mainstream. It's now built into popular services such as Skype and WhatsApp, and even Facebook may soon be encrypted. Republican Senator and Trump ally Lindsey Graham recently floated legislations that would strip tech companies of their liability protection under the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act unless they comply with as of yet undefined best practices. Brianna Beckhorn at Standard University Center of Internet and Society says, it's a safe bet. The best practice would include a requirement that law enforcement could get access to encrypted content. The bill, as it drafted, does a bizarre and alarming end run around normal legislative or even agency rules-making processes. It goes on to say, given the Attorney General the keys for deciding what rules apply to the Internet. The Justice Department official says, all they want is a reasonable accommodation for investigators with court orders, similar to the federal law that requires phone companies to make it technically feasible for police to tap phone calls. Recent headlines have focused on the FBI's disputes over encryption with Apple, which has refused investigators' requests to break into iPhones recovered from high-profile terrorism attacks. But those situations are relatively rare in practice. It's local law enforcement that has more often find itself frustrated by encryption.
Well, thank you, Director. And I know my colleagues will have more questions, so I'm going to defer to them. There's one other matter I wanted to raise, though, and that's the...
In the case in San Bernardino, the federal judge, has ordered the maker of the phone to do two things. That is, disable the auto erase function on the phone so that if the FBI is trying to guess the passcode to the phone, it doesn't automatically delete the contents essentially after the 10th try. And second, to disable the delay between tries function so that if we're going to try to guess the code, it doesn't take years and years and years, but instead we're able to do it in minutes or in hours, and to do that through the remote pulsing of codes to the phone.
Deeply concerned that as the size of the tumor in Syria and Iraq.
What are the costs associated with moving to a world of universal strong encryption? There's tons of benefits. I love encryption. I love privacy. And when I hear corporations saying, we're going to take you to a world where no one can look at your stuff, part of me thinks, that's great. I don't want anybody looking at my stuff. But then I step back and say, you know, law enforcement, which I'm part of, really does save people's lives, rescue kids, rescue neighborhoods from terrorists, and we do that a whole lot through court orders that are search warrants, and we do it a whole lot through search warrants of mobile devices.
It comes into play at least once or twice every single week, says Captain Clay Anderson, who supervises investigations at the Sheriff's Office in Humphrey County, Tennessee. Human trafficking and human exploitation of minor cases, those are very frequent, Anderson says. In those cases, you run into dead ends because you can't get past encryption. There's often little point in getting a warrant for a predator's digital messages, he says, because the messaging company isn't able to produce anything. If they could get those communications, he says, it would be easier to build cases for those prosecutions. Who needs that kind of encryption other than maybe the military, he asks. We don't even in law enforcement use encryption like that. Now you might be thinking, who needs all this encryption anyway? Well, let me introduce you to Moxie Marlinspike. Oh, hope I said his name right. Now, Moxie Marlinspike, he's the guy who co-created the encryption system and used it in WhatsApp. You know, the app that your mom uses to send your memes and your dad uses to share political conspiracy theories? So Marlinspike runs Signal, a messaging app that's so secure, even the creators can't spy on your messages. He says, people's expectations when they send someone a message is that the message is viewable by themselves and intended and to the intended recipient. In other words, he thinks regular people want their message to stay private. Can you imagine that audacity? And get this, law enforcement agencies have pretty much given up on getting warrants for Signal because there's nothing to get. Marlinspike says, that's the whole point. I mean, can you believe it? An app that actually respects your privacy? Next thing you know, he'll be saying people have a right to keep their personal conversation to themselves. So while Trump and his allies are trying to strip away your privacy protection, there are people out there fighting to keep your messages secure. But apparently, some of us actually want to keep our conversations private. Who would have thought? So there you have it. Trump's presidency in 2025 has brought us to crossroads when it comes to privacy, from dismantling the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board, pushing for backdoors and encryption. The administration is making it clear that they prioritize surveillance over our right to privacy. See you on the next one. Stay ahead in a changing world.
Donald Trump? Yeah!